What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about the British Royal Navy versus the US Navy. So, as you might know, here in America, we take a lot of pride in our military. So today, I want to learn about how the US Navy compares to the British Royal Navy. Not that this is a competition or anything, but let's see who's better. But joking aside, I do want to check out this video by the Infographics Show. This is the US Navy versus the British Royal Navy, a military comparison. So let's take a look.
In this episode of the Infographics Show, U.S. Navy versus British Royal Navy.
Okay.
At the height of its power, Great Britain ruled over an empire so large that it was famously said the sun never set on it. Through a powerful navy, this small island nation exerted its influence across the globe, remaining on top of the world order for hundreds of years.
That is so true. I've never thought of it like that. You know, here in America, we of course learn about the British Empire, and it's an important part of our history as well, and how big and expansive and global the British Empire was. But I never really thought about that in the practical sense that means you must have had ships and a navy and military presence all over the world. So the British Royal Navy must have been gigantic, like bigger than I ever imagined.
The U.S., by comparison, has historically fielded a much smaller navy, though its stunning victories have become maritime legend. After World War II, with the decline of the old powers, the U.S. invested heavily in its navy and quickly became the premier naval power of the modern age.
Okay, interesting. We're talking about the British Empire, British Royal Navy, one of the biggest, most powerful navies. It literally, almost conquered the planet, you could say. Versus the United States, where in the modern day, the United States probably spends the most amount of money and dollars on our military force than any other country in the world.
So how do the two navies stack up against each other today? After the grueling wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, both nations are facing problems in the manpower department. For the Royal Navy, though, this has meant the mothballing of two of its most powerful ships due to a lack of qualified personnel. Though its 2020 plans call for a force of 82,000 sailors, it's highly unlikely Britain will achieve this goal, as it currently only holds 32,000 seamen on active duty.
Okay, obviously, this is the data from this is a little old. It's only 5 years old or something. So the active personnel was 32,000, but the British Navy was hoping to have over double that. Is there some kind of recruitment difficulties or something?
With 3,000 in reserve. By comparison, the U.S. Navy fields a force of over 319,000 active duty personnel, with almost 100,000 in the reserves.
Wow, I didn't even know the numbers of how many people were actively in the U.S. Wait a minute, that would mean that if there's 300,000 active personnel, there's only 300 million Americans, roughly. That means 1 out of every 1,000 Americans is in our Navy. You could think of it like that. Well, anyway, besides all that, the United States, we have a much, much bigger population than Britain. So, of course, we're going to have more personnel in our military. We have more people.
However, though the U.S. has not suffered from a loss of ships due to a lack of personnel, Its sailors, many of whom have been on rotating 6-month deployments for over a decade, are facing historic rates of low morale and deployment fatigue. While the Royal Navy has new ships in construction, it has also faced severe cutbacks to its budget, which has reduced the number of total ships in its inventory to 73, of which only 30 are combat ships, with the rest being support or patrol craft.
Okay, I'm really interested here now. We're talking about, honestly, it's kind of a weird way to start out this video. We're talking about the difficulties that the British Royal Navy and the US Navy are having, rather than what are like the impressive good things about them. But anyway, this is something that's impressive. 73 ships, so if it's a navy, your navy has to have ships. That's pretty important to the Navy. 73 ships in the British Royal Navy. How much do we have?
The US, meanwhile, has increased the budget of its Navy, and not only has a new generation of ships coming online, but it's actively increasing the size of its inventory. As it stands, the American Navy fields a force of 284 ships, of which 160 are combat ships, though new budgets call for a total force of 308 total hulls by the mid-2020s.
Oh my god. I mean, I'm not totally shocked. I'm still shocked, but it's like... Believe me when I say there are definitely discussions sometimes in the United States over like, do we spend too much money on our military? Because this is just ridiculous. But okay, we've got like over 4 times the amount of ships.
As the vanguards of any modern navy, the aircraft carrier is arguably the single most important ship in any fleet. The US currently operates 10 Nimitz-class supercarriers, with 2 of its next-generation Ford-class supercarriers coming online soon, and 6 more in acquisitions.
All right.
US Nimitz supercarriers are the largest warships ever built.
Oh my god. Over 300 meters? These are the ships that literally carry aircrafts on them, and you can like take off and land on a ship because it's so massive.
At a length of 1,092 feet and a total displacement of over 100,000 long tons.
Okay.
Each supercarrier hosts an air wing of 90 aircraft, though unlike any other navy, American carrier air wings comprise a total strike package of fighter, strike aircraft, early warning, electronic warfare, and airborne refueling aircraft, making each supercarrier a mini air force onto its own.
My god. Yeah, as much money as we spend on our military, you call it excessive, but I guess most Americans are happy, at least, that if you're gonna overspend on something, at least it's like our defense and our military, and at the end of the day, I do think it makes a lot of Americans feel very, very safe and secure. Like, so at least there's that.
Through its carrier air wings alone, the US maintains a force of 900 total aircraft. The British Royal Navy fields only a single aircraft carrier, the HMS Queen Elizabeth, though a second Queen Elizabeth-class carrier is currently under construction and expected to be operational in 2020.
Oh, so that's definitely been built by now. So now Britain has at least 2 of these ridiculous aircraft carriers as well.
As the largest ship ever built for the Royal Navy, the Queen Elizabeth comes up shy of its American cousins at 920 feet and a displacement of 64,000 long tons.
It's called the Queen Elizabeth. That's nice.
It is equipped with 40 total aircraft to include dual-purpose fighter strike aircraft and airborne refueling.
Jeez.
However, due to a lack of arresting gear and catapult launch systems, the Queen Elizabeth can only launch STOVL, or short takeoff and vertical landing aircraft.
Catapult launch systems? What the heck is this? Oh, sorry, it doesn't have catapult launch systems. What? So, it's not exactly the type of ship where you have a long takeoff and landing strip, I guess.
Which places a severe restriction on the size of a weapons package each plane can be equipped with versus an American plane. As the second most important element of a modern navy, submarines make up a sizable portion of a naval complement. The Royal Navy currently fields 10 total subs, with 6 guided missile submarines and 4 nuclear ballistic missile submarines. Of its attack subs, 3 are of its new, modern Astute class, and 3 of the older, though still formidable, Trafalgar class.
Okay.
The United States, by comparison, deploys a total of 66
Okay.
submarines, of which 52 are nuclear-powered attack subs, and 14 are nuclear ballistic missile submarines.
It's funny because, like, you know, growing up in the United States, you learn about the military, but I didn't even know this level of detail, not just with the British Royal Navy, but with a lot of this stats about the U.S. Navy.
Its attack subs, 34 are of the aging Cold War era Los Angeles class, which, along with the 3 Seawolf class still in service, are being replaced by the next generation Virginia class, of which 15 are already in service.
Okay.
Destroyers make up the bulk of a Navy's surface warfare component, with the flexibility to provide both fleet defensive and offensive capabilities.
A destroyer? What is a destroyer?
The US currently has 67 destroyers, of which 65 are of the Arleigh Burke class, the first ship designed around the formidable Aegis combat system. In service since 1988, the US Navy plans a future purchase of 24 more ships upgraded to the Type 3 variant. This leaves it with 2 of 3 planned Zumwalt class destroyers, with any future purchases cancelled. Though currently the stealthiest surface ship in the world, the Zumwalt class has been plagued with cost overruns and a lack of mission focus. This lack of focus, combined with the cancellation of specialized ammunition for its main cannon, which would have cost a whopping $800,000 a shell, has prompted America's Congress to cancel development of more ships, though the high-tech lessons learned have already been incorporated into future ship design.
That's the kind of thing that makes me feel a little sick. The ammunition, 1 shell, 1 bullet for this destroyer is almost $1 million? Oh my god, that makes you a little sick.
The Royal Navy currently operates only 6 destroyers of the Daring class. Replacing the Sheffield class, the Darings are primarily focused on anti-aircraft and anti-missile roles, leaving them with a lack of anti-ship or land strike capability versus the American Arleigh Burkes. However, their focus on anti-air and anti-missile missions has many defense industry experts on both sides of the Atlantic considering them the best air defense ships in the world.
UK has the best anti-air ships in the world. Specifically against aircraft. Ships that are good against air. Best in the world. I did not know that. That's pretty cool. To be the best in the world at anything, like with any military vessel, that's cool. So I'm obviously seeing a pattern here. That there's some little differences between the types of ships or exactly what the ships can do in each class between the British Royal Navy and the US Navy. And of course, the biggest difference is that the US Navy is just a lot larger. And that's just because we are a larger country. And we have 5 times the population, at least, of people.
Unfortunately, the future of Britain's destroyer fleet is in serious question, as originally 12 Daring-class destroyers were planned for procurement, only to have the number drop to 8, and then to finally only the 6 currently in service.
Well, now it's a couple years later. I wonder how many of these destroyer anti-aircrafts the British Royal Navy has now, a couple of years later.
The designation of cruiser, or frigate, has varied in meaning over time and across navies. It was originally the designation for scout and patrol ships during the Age of Sail, and today it fits a niche that blurs the lines between different classes of ships. Modern cruisers sit somewhere between the roles that World War II destroyers offered as anti-aircraft and anti-submarine support, and a battleship's capabilities to hit surface ships and land targets.
Oh my god, this just keeps going and going and going. I really didn't even realize there were so many different types of ships and stuff. And it seems like, as far as the different types of vessels and ships, like the British Royal Navy, you might have less, but you seem to have every class of vessel like available in your Navy as well. That anything the US has, the British Royal Navy has at least some of them as well.
Of the cruiser designation, the Royal Navy currently operates 13 ships of the Type 23 or Duke class. Originally designed to counter Russian subs in the North Atlantic, the Type 23 still remains primarily an anti-submarine ship, though it has shown great versatility in air defense and land attack roles over the last 3 decades.
Okay.
Equipped with only 8 American-made Harpoon anti-ship missiles, though, Type 23 ships remain dependent on other escorts for protection from enemy surface ships.
We're shooting harpoons? You guys are shooting harpoons at people still? Like the big hook? Aren't you supposed to do that against a whale? Or no. This is a type of missile. I just imagine harpoons shooting everywhere.
The Americans, meanwhile, operate 22 Ticonderoga class cruisers. At a displacement of 9,600 long tons, the Ticonderogas are twice the size of their British counterparts, though this is due to their multi-role design. Equipped with
Here, the British Royal Navy has 13 of these, and we have 22. So you don't even have half. Like, I'm just saying, based on your economy size and population size compared to the United States, you guys actually have a lot of these types of cruisers. Like, just over half of what America has.
With Tomahawk cruise missiles, a Ticonderoga can strike targets on land or other ships while simultaneously defending against incoming air or missile threats with its SM-2 and longer range and more advanced SM-6 missiles.
Okay.
Unlike the Royal Navy's Daring class, the American Ticonderogas are also equipped with the RIM-161 Standard Missile 3, a high-speed and long-range missile developed exclusively to destroy incoming ballistic missiles, though in the mid-2000s, the US Navy demonstrated an ability to destroy enemy satellites with it as well.
Wow.
With over 3 times the
We got like 12 different types of missiles going on here too. My God.
number of ships and personnel, the US Navy is significantly larger than the British Royal Navy. On the whole, American ships are better equipped to handle a variety of threats, making a single American ship more threatening to a potential adversary than its British counterpart. Yet British naval planning has for decades been focused on augmenting the capabilities of their close American allies, not countering them. American and British
Oh, that's nice. Thank you for that, by the way. If the narrator here is basically saying that we're allies, the British Royal Navy and the U.S. Navy, we're allies. So it's like a lot of the development and focus of our militaries, some of that is just really based on us working together and augmenting each other's what we do better at or worse at or are deficient at or not, and rather than this being like which navy would defeat the other navy kind of thing. That's not what we're really about here, which is great.
British forces have for a long time trained and operated together, yet it is their navies which are more intimately linked than any other branch of the armed forces.
Cool.
With its commitments to deterring aggression in the North Atlantic from a resurgent Russia and Chinese military expansionism in the South China Sea, the US Navy may be the most formidable force on the high seas, but it would find itself hard-pressed to conduct its global mission of keeping the high seas free and open to all without its partnerships with close allies such as the British Royal Navy.
Right.
And the US is not the only one that needs a good partnership.
Okay. I think that's the end right there. They're about to go into some ad or something. That was really interesting. I didn't realize how big and powerful the British Royal Navy is. And they make a great point here at the end. Like, of course, I expected the U.S. Navy to be bigger and have more ships and cannons and missiles and stuff. We spend an ungodly amount of the U.S. Taxpayer and government budgets and taxes, and we spend it all on the military, like a lot of it. So I was totally expecting that, but the British Royal Navy is nothing to scoff about. Like, you guys have everything, it seems like, that we have. Maybe a little less of it. Maybe a little difference what you specialize in. And it's really, like, this idea of, like, which Navy would win is, like, such a joke. Because it's like, at this point in time, we work together. And as they said, like, we're doing a lot of, like, peacekeeping and defensive missions together at this very moment. And that's cool to hear about as well, how we're working together. And this whole comparison was maybe lopsided in some senses, but very interesting for me to hear about what the British Royal Navy has, and very impressive as well. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on the U.S. Navy versus the British Royal Navy and what the stats and stuff we learned today. And that'd be cool to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain and learning about British culture and seeing British things I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.